Dr. Kim Soo was having his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through the medical ship. He nearly dropped his cup as red lights flashed everywhere. The Mercy's Edge had been floating quietly near the border between human and alien space for 3 boring months. Nothing ever happened out here. All medical staff to the bridge immediately. Captain Lee's voice boomed through the speakers. Soo grabbed his medical bag and ran down the narrow hallways. His heart was already racing. Emergency calls in deep space usually meant someone was dying. When he reached the bridge, everyone looked scared. Captain Lee was staring at a crackling transmission on the main screen. The image kept cutting in and out, but Soo could see strange blue lights and what looked like crystal walls. "Doctor, you need to hear this," the captain said quietly. A voice came through the static. It sounded desperate and was speaking in broken human language. "Please, our queen, she is dying. Poison in her blood. We cannot heal her. Need help. Anyone who can help." Soo felt his stomach drop. This was a Velthani transmission. The Velthani were the tall, crystal-like aliens who controlled most of this part of space. They had never asked humans for help before. Ever. In fact, they barely tolerated humans existing at all. Their royal ship was attacked 6 hours ago, Captain Lee explained. Someone poisoned their queen. Their own doctors can't figure out how to save her. Lieutenant Park shook her head. "This has to be a trap. The Velthani hate us. Why would they suddenly want our help?" Soo studied the transmission. Through the static, he could see alien figures moving frantically around what looked like a medical bay. Their movements seemed genuinely panicked, not fake. "I don't think it's a trap," he said slowly. "I think they're really desperate." The captain crossed his arms. "Even if it's real, we can't help. No human has ever been allowed on a Velthani ship. Their warriors kill anyone who tries to board without permission. It would be suicide." "But their queen is dying," Soo said. "She's someone's daughter, someone's mother. Doesn't matter what species she is." Everyone stared at him. Lieutenant Park laughed nervously. "You're not seriously thinking about going over there, are you? Doc, they'll kill you the moment you step on their ship." Soo was quiet for a moment. He thought about why he became a doctor in the first place. It wasn't to only help humans, it was to help anyone who needed it. What if this is our chance to make peace? What if saving their queen could prevent a war? The tension between humans and Velthani had been getting worse every month. Both sides were building more warships. Everyone knew a big fight was coming soon. Maybe this was the universe giving them a chance to change things. Captain Lee sighed. "Even if I wanted to help, which I don't, how would you even treat an alien? You don't know anything about their biology." "I know medicine," Soo said firmly. "Poison is poison. Pain is pain. And someone who's dying needs help, no matter what they look like." The bridge went silent, except for the crackling transmission. The Velthani voice kept repeating the same desperate plea for help. Soo looked around at his crewmates. They all thought he was crazy, and maybe he was, but he couldn't just listen to someone begging for help and do nothing about it. 20 minutes later, Soo was strapping himself into the smallest shuttle on the Mercy's Edge. His hands were shaking as he checked the medical supplies one more time. Captain Lee had finally agreed to let him go, but only after making him sign about 50 different forms, saying it wasn't the ship's fault if he got himself killed. "This is insane," Lieutenant Park said through his headset as she helped him with the launch sequence. "You know that, right?" "Yeah, I know," Soo replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. "But someone has to try." The shuttle's engines hummed to life, and suddenly he was floating away from the safety of the Mercy's Edge. Space looked different when you were alone in a tiny ship, darker, more empty. The Velthani royal vessel was just a distant, glowing dot, but he could see it getting bigger as he flew toward it. Then his radar started beeping. 3 human patrol ships were heading straight for him. "Shuttlecraft, this is Commander Han from the 7th Fleet. Turn around immediately. You are not authorized." To approach alien vessels, Soo's heart started pounding. He hadn't expected his own people to try to stop him. "Commander, this is Dr. Kim Soo. I'm on a medical mission. The Velthani Queen is dying." "I don't care if their whole planet is dying. Turn around now, or we'll drag you back." The patrol ships were getting closer. Soo could see their weapons charging up. These weren't empty threats. He pushed his engines harder, trying to reach Velthani space before the human ships caught him. His little shuttle was fast, but not fast enough. Just when he thought the patrol ships would grab him, something else appeared on his radar. Velthani fighters, moving like silver lightning through space, but they weren't coming to help him. They were coming to destroy anything that got too close to their queen's ship. "Oh no," Sue whispered, as he realized he was caught between two groups of angry soldiers who wanted to blow him up. The human patrol ships immediately backed off when they saw the Velthani fighters. Nobody wanted to start a war today, but the alien ships kept coming straight for Sue's shuttle. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Velthani sacred space," a cold voice said through his radio. "Prepare to be destroyed." "Wait," Sue shouted into his microphone. "I'm here to help your queen. I'm a doctor. Humans are not permitted near the royal vessel. This is your final warning." Sue watched as the Velthani fighters spread out around him. Their ships looked like flying crystals, beautiful but deadly. Energy weapons were charging up, ready to turn his shuttle into space dust. This was it. He was going to die out here, and the Queen would die too, and probably a war would start anyway. Maybe Lieutenant Park was right. Maybe this was just insane. But then he thought about that desperate voice on the transmission. Someone was begging for help, and he was the only one who had answered. "I'm not leaving," he said quietly into the radio. "Someone is dying, and I'm a doctor. That's all that matters." The Velthani fighters moved closer. Sue could see their weapons glowing brighter. He closed his eyes and waited for the end. Then miraculously his radio crackled again. But this time the voice was different, weaker, more tired. "Let the human pass. Bring him to me now." It was the Queen herself. The Velthani fighters escorted Sue's shuttle to the royal ship, but he could tell they still wanted to blast him into pieces. As soon as he docked, armed guards surrounded him. These weren't like any aliens he'd seen in movies. They were tall, almost 8 feet, and their skin looked like living crystal that caught the light in strange ways. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light, and when they moved, tiny sparkles seemed to follow them. "Move, human," one of them growled in perfect human language. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. They marched him through corridors that looked like the inside of a giant gemstone. Everything was smooth and curved, with light flowing through the walls like water. Sue had never seen anything so beautiful or so alien. He tried not to stare, but it was impossible. Other Velthani stopped what they were doing to watch him pass. Some looked curious, but most looked angry. A few made hissing sounds that definitely weren't friendly. Sue kept his medical bag clutched tight in his hands and tried to look like he belonged there, even though his human clothes and equipment looked ridiculous next to their crystal elegance. Finally, they reached a large room that had to be the medical bay, but it looked nothing like any hospital Sue had ever seen. Instead of beds, there were floating platforms made of what looked like solid light. Strange devices hummed and sparkled around the room, and the air itself seemed to shimmer. The center of it all was the Queen. Sue's breath caught in his throat. She was the most beautiful and terrifying thing he'd ever seen. 12 feet tall, with skin that looked like polished diamond. But something was wrong. Her light was flickering like a dying bulb. Dark veins spread across her crystal skin like cracks in glass. "So," she said, her voice like distant thunder, "you are the human who came to save me." Sue swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty. I'm Dr. Kim Sue. I heard your call for help." Several Velthani healers stood around her, looking frustrated and exhausted. One of them, wearing robes that sparkled with medical symbols, stepped forward. "This is foolishness, my Queen. What can this tiny creature possibly know that we do not?" The Queen raised one crystalline hand and everyone went quiet. "He came when no one else would. That shows courage. Tell me, small human, what do you see?" Approached carefully. The Queen's condition was worse than he'd expected. The dark veins were spreading faster now and her breathing was shallow. He pulled out his medical scanner, which looked like a child's toy compared to the alien equipment around them. "May I?" he asked, holding up the scanner. The Queen nodded weakly. Sue ran the device over her arm, and the readings made his eyes widen. "This poison, it's attacking your nervous system, but it's designed specifically for your physiology. It knows exactly how Velthani bodies work." "We know this already," the head healer said impatiently. We have tried every treatment. Nothing works. Sue studied the scanner readings more carefully. Something was bothering him about the poison's behavior. It was too perfect, too specifically designed. Then it hit him. "You're treating this like a normal poison," he said suddenly. "But it's not. It's more like a computer virus, but for biology. It's programmed to counter every treatment you try." The Velthani healers looked confused. "Computer virus? What does this mean?" "It means," Sue said, his excitement growing, "that you need to think like a human. We don't fight viruses head-on, we trick them." "Trick the poison?" The head healer, who introduced himself as Master Kale, looked at Sue like he was speaking nonsense. "How does one trick a toxin?" Sue pulled up the scanner readings on the nearest Velthani medical display. The alien technology responded to his touch, which surprised everyone, including himself. "Look at this pattern. The poison isn't just attacking randomly, it's learning. Every time you try a treatment, it adapts and becomes stronger against that specific cure." The Queen's breathing became more labored. Her crystal skin was losing its glow, turning dull gray in patches. They were running out of time. In human medicine, when we face adaptive viruses, we don't attack them directly, Sue explained quickly. We confuse them. We give them fake targets, overload their systems, make them waste energy fighting the wrong battles. Master Kale's glowing eyes narrowed. "This is primitive human thinking. Our technology is far beyond such crude methods." "Maybe that's the problem," Sue said. "Your technology is so advanced that it's predictable. The poison was designed by someone who knows exactly how Velthani medicine works, but it wasn't designed to handle human unpredictability." The Queen lifted her head slightly. "Show us, human doctor." Sue looked around the medical bay. Everything here operated on energy and light, completely different from human medicine. But maybe that was the key. "I need to create a treatment that combines human surgical techniques with your energy-based healing, something the poison has never seen before." "Impossible," Master Kale said. "Human bodies are crude flesh and blood. Our physiology is pure energy contained within crystal matrices. Your methods cannot work on us." "Then we make them work," Sue said firmly. He approached one of the floating medical platforms. "Your Majesty, I need to understand how your body processes energy, but my human brain can't interpret your technology directly." The Queen's eyes flickered with interest. "You wish to link minds with our medical systems? Is that possible?" Master Kale stepped back in horror. "Absolutely not. A human neural system cannot handle direct interface with our quantum-based medical technology. It would burn out your brain in seconds." Sue felt his stomach drop, but he tried not to show it. "What if we did it gradually? Small connections at first, building up tolerance." "Even small connections could kill you," another healer warned. "Human minds are not designed for quantum energy interfaces." The Queen was watching Sue carefully. "Why would you risk this? You barely know me. Our species have been enemies for decades." Sue thought about that for a moment. "Because you're my patient now, and I don't abandon my patients no matter what species they are." Something changed in the Queen's expression. The other healers looked shocked that a human would speak so directly to their ruler. "Very well," the Queen said softly. "But we do this carefully. Master Kale, prepare the gentlest neural interface we have." "My Queen, I cannot recommend this madness." "The human is right about one thing," she interrupted. "Our traditional methods are failing. Perhaps it is time to try something completely new." 20 minutes later, Sue was lying on a crystal platform. Next to the Queen, thin streams of light connecting his forehead to the alien medical system. The first touch of the interface felt like lightning in his brain. "Breathe," Master Kale instructed. "Let the connection stabilize slowly." Sue gritted his teeth as alien knowledge flooded into his human mind. He could suddenly see the Queen's internal energy patterns, understand how her crystal body functioned, but the information came with searing pain that made him want to scream. "I can see it," he gasped. "I can see how the poison works." The neural link felt like fire spreading through Sue's brain, but he forced himself to focus. Through the connection, he could see the Queen's energy patterns like a three-dimensional map made of light. The poison was there too, a dark, twisted thing that pulsed with malicious intelligence. "Now I understand," he whispered, his voice strained. "The poison isn't just random. It's been programmed with knowledge of both human and Velthani biology. As he worked to isolate the toxin, something unexpected happened. The Queen's memories began flowing into his mind. At first it was just flashes, images of crystal cities, alien ceremonies, political meetings. But then the memories became clearer and more focused. He saw a secret meeting in a dark room. Human figures in military uniforms were talking with tall Velthani wearing black robes. Both groups looked angry and determined. "The peace talks must fail," one of the humans was saying. "War is the only way to secure our future." "Agreed," replied a Velthani, with scars across his crystal face. "The Queen's weakness disgusts our people. She actually believes humans and Velthani can coexist." Sue's hands trembled as he continued working on the poison, but his mind reeled from what he was seeing. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "these memories, are they real?" "Unfortunately, yes," the Queen's voice echoed in his mind. "I discovered the conspiracy just before I was poisoned. Extremists from both our species working together to ensure war becomes inevitable." The poison was fighting back harder now, adapting to Sue's hybrid treatment approach. Pain shot through his skull as the neural interface strained his human brain beyond its limits. He could taste blood in his mouth. "They used my own food taster," the Queen continued, sharing her memories. "A trusted servant who had served my family. For decades, they promised him great wealth if he would slip the poison into my ceremonial drink before the peace ceremony." Sue saw more flashes, the moment of betrayal, the Queen collapsing during what should have been a celebration of diplomacy. He also saw the conspirators' backup plan. If the Queen died, her younger brother would take the throne. Prince Vex was hot-tempered and had always favored military solutions over negotiations. They planned this perfectly, Sue realized, his vision starting to blur from the neural strain. Your death would make Prince Vex the new ruler, and he'd immediately declare war on humanity. And the human extremists would have their excuse to launch a preemptive strike, the Queen added. Millions would die on both sides. The poison suddenly surged, as if it sensed they were close to defeating it. The dark veins spread faster across the Queen's crystal skin, and Sue felt like his brain was being torn apart by the neural interface. "I'm losing the connection," he shouted aloud, his voice echoing in the medical bay. Master Kale leaned over him, looking panicked. "His neural patterns are destabilizing. The human brain cannot handle much more," but Sue refused to give up. Through the agony, he could see the poison's core programming. It was designed to be unbeatable against any single treatment, but he wasn't using a single treatment anymore. He was combining human medicine with Velthani energy healing in ways that shouldn't be possible. "Just a little more," he groaned, blood trickling from his nose. "I can see its weakness." The Queen's voice grew fainter in his mind. "Young human, you are dying to save me. Why?" "Because," Sue whispered, pouring every ounce of his remaining strength into the treatment, "someone has to choose peace over war. Someone has to prove that different species can work together instead of destroying each other." His vision went white as the neural interface reached critical overload. The last thing Sue remembered was a brilliant flash of light. Then everything went dark. When he woke up 3 days later, the first thing he noticed was that he couldn't move his left arm. The second thing was that Queen Nari was sitting beside his bed, her crystal skin now glowing with healthy light instead of the sickly gray he remembered. "You did it," she said softly. "The poison is gone." Sue tried to sit up, but immediately felt dizzy. His head felt like someone had been hitting it with a hammer for hours. "What happened to me?" "The neural interface damaged parts of your brain," Master Kale explained from across the room. He looked tired but relieved. "You have some paralysis on your left side and your memory may be affected. But you're alive, which frankly surprises all of us." Sue flexed his right hand, grateful that at least half his body still worked. "Worth it," he said with a weak smile. That's when his communication device started buzzing with angry messages. The first one was from Captain Lee aboard the Mercy's Edge. "Sue, what have you done? Human command is furious. They're calling you a traitor for helping the enemy. There's talk of a court-martial when you get back. The next message was even worse. It was from Admiral Chen, the head of the Human Space Defense Force. Dr. Kim Soo, you are hereby charged with treason against humanity. You provided aid and comfort to enemy aliens without authorization. Prepare to face military justice. Soo stared at the messages in disbelief. Traitor, I just saved someone's life. Queen Nari's expression darkened. I'm afraid my own people aren't much better. Several members of my council are demanding that I execute you for the crime of touching royal blood with your inferior human hands. But you're alive because of him, Master Kale protested. Logic doesn't matter to extremists, the Queen replied sadly. Fear and hatred are stronger than gratitude. Over the next few hours, more messages poured in. Human news channels were calling Soo a collaborator who had betrayed his own species. Velthani extremists were spreading rumors that he had somehow infected their queen with human weakness. Both sides wanted his head. This is exactly what the conspirators wanted, Soo realized. Even saving your life plays into their plan. They can use our friendship as proof that cooperation makes both species weaker. Queen Nari stood up, her full 12-foot height making her look like a living statue. Then they underestimate both. Hervus, I'm offering you permanent sanctuary in Velthani space. You'll be under my personal protection. I can't hide forever, Soo said. And if I stay here, it just gives the extremists more ammunition. They'll say I've gone completely native. Then what do you suggest? Before Soo could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the royal ship. Master Kale rushed to a crystal display that showed ships approaching fast. My queen, we have a problem. Prince Vex is leading a fleet toward us, and there are human warships coming from the other direction. Queen Nari's eyes flashed with anger. My dear brother moves quickly. He's probably already declared me unfit to rule because I let a human touch me. Soo struggled to his feet, his left leg barely supporting his weight. They're not just coming for me, are they? No, the Queen said grimly. They're coming for both of us. The conspirators have decided. We're too dangerous to live. Through the crystal walls, Soo could see the approaching fleets, human ships on one side, Velthani vessels on the other, all armed and ready for battle. In the middle was their small royal ship, caught between two forces that wanted them dead. We need to get out of here, Soo said. Where can we run? Queen, Nari asked. We're enemies of both our peoples now. We can't run, Soo said, gripping the side of his medical bed as the ship shook from nearby explosions. Running just proves we're guilty. We need to fight back with the truth. Queen Nari moved to the crystal display showing the approaching fleets. The truth? Half the galaxy wants us dead, and the other half thinks we're traitors. Who's going? To listen. The people who matter, Soo replied, his mind racing despite the lingering effects of his brain injury. There are still good people on both sides who want peace, not war. Master Kale looked up from his medical readings. The neural link is still partially active. Your Majesty, you could share your memories with Dr. Soo more completely. Show him everything you know about the conspiracy. That could kill him, Queen Nari warned. His brain is already damaged. Then we better make it count, Soo said grimly. 10 minutes later, they were connected again through the alien technology. This time, the Queen deliberately shared her memories of the conspiracy. Soo saw faces, heard names, watched secret meetings that went back months. The conspiracy was bigger than they'd imagined. Admiral Chen wasn't just angry about Soo helping aliens. He was one of the leaders. On the Velthani side, Prince Vex was working with a group called the Crystal Purists, who believed their species was superior to all others. Look at this, Soo gasped as images flooded his mind. They've been planning attacks on both sides to make it look like the other species started the war. He saw human extremists preparing to bomb a Velthani civilian station. At the same time, Velthani radicals were planning to destroy a human colony ship full of families. Both attacks were scheduled for the same day to make it look like coordinated strikes. They're going to kill thousands of innocent people, Queen Nari said, her voice filled with horror. Not if we stop them first. Soo pulled up the communication system. We need to contact the peace summit that's happening on Neutral Station 5. There are still leaders from both sides there who might listen. But when they tried to send a message, nothing went through. The approaching fleets were jamming all communications. They're not just here to kill us, Sue realized. They're here to make sure we can't tell anyone what we know. Prince Vex's voice suddenly echoed through the royal ship's speakers. Sister, you have disgraced our family and our species. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. On the other channel, Admiral Chen was broadcasting to the human ships. Dr. Kim Soo is a traitor to humanity. He must be captured alive for interrogation before execution. Queen Nari's crystal skin began to glow brighter as her anger grew. They want to interrogate you to find out what you learned about their plans. Then they'll kill us both and blame each other for starting the war. The ship shuddered as energy blasts hit their shields. They were taking fire from both fleets now. We need a way to broadcast the truth to everyone at once, Sue said. Something they can't jam or stop. Master Kale suddenly straightened up. The emergency beacon. Every ship in this sector has to monitor the emergency frequencies by law. If we send a distress signal, everyone will hear it, including the Peace Summit delegates. But we only get one chance, Queen Nari warned. Once we start broadcasting, they'll destroy us immediately to shut us up. Sue looked at the approaching fleets, then at the Queen who had become his unlikely friend. Then we better make it a good speech. As explosions lit up the space around them, they began preparing their message. The truth that could either save both their species or get them killed in the next few minutes. Broadcasting on all emergency frequencies in 3, 2, 1. Master Kyle's fingers danced across the crystal controls as energy blasts rocked their ship. This is Queen Nari of the Velthani Empire and Dr. Kim Soo of the Human Medical Corps. The Queen's voice rang out across space. We have proof that extremists from both our species are working together to start a war. Sue leaned into the communicator, his voice weak but determined. Admiral Chen and Prince Vex are planning false flag attacks to make it look like our species attacked each other first. Thousands of innocent people will die unless you stop them. The response was immediate. Prince Vex's fleet opened fire with everything they had, trying to destroy the ship before more truth could get out. But something unexpected happened. Some of the Velthani ships stopped shooting and turned their weapons on Prince Vex's flagship. Sister, you have loyal followers even now, Queen Nari whispered, watching her people choose sides in real time. On the human side, the fleet was also splitting apart. Some ships continued attacking, but others were pulling back, their captains refusing to fire on a medical officer who was trying to expose corruption. The message is getting through, Sue said with relief. Then alarms started screaming again. What now? Master Kale looked terrified. Boarding pods, they're sending soldiers directly onto our ship. Through the crystal corridors, they could hear the sound of cutting tools and explosions as assault teams from both species forced their way inside. These weren't regular military. These were the extremists' personal killers, sent to silence them permanently. We need to get to the escape pods, Queen Nari said, but Sue shook his head. No good. They'll just shoot us down in space. We need to fight them here, on ground we can control. Fight them. Master Kyle looked at Sue like he was crazy. You can barely walk and there are dozens of trained killers coming for us. But Sue was already thinking like the human doctor he was, creative, adaptable, willing to try anything. For Your Majesty, can your technology respond to human biosignatures? Some of it, yes. Why? Because I have an idea that's either brilliant or completely insane. 5 minutes later, when the first group of human assassins broke into the medical bay, they found it empty except for strange crystal formations floating in the air. They moved forward cautiously, weapons ready. That's when Sue dropped from above, using Velthani gravity manipulators to launch himself down like a human missile. His left side was still partially paralyzed, but his right fist worked just fine. The lead assassin went down hard. Now. So shouted, Queen Nari emerged from behind a crystal pillar, her 12-foot frame moving with deadly grace. But instead of using traditional Velthani weapons, she was wielding human medical lasers modified by her technology. The precise beams disabled the attackers without killing them, something that surprised everyone, including the assassins. We're not like you, she told the stunned humans. We don't have to kill to win. The next wave came from the Velthani side, Prince Vex's crystal purists wearing ceremonial armor and wielding energy spears. But Sue had prepared for them too. Using his medical knowledge of Velthani physiology, he'd rigged the room's light spectrum to interfere with their crystal-based vision. "They can't see us clearly," he whispered to Queen Nari, "but we can see them perfectly." Working together, they moved through the confused attackers like a perfectly coordinated team. Sue used human unpredictability and medical precision, while Queen Nari applied Velthani strength and technology with human-inspired creativity. Every move they made proved that their species could be stronger together than apart. The final group of assassins, a mixed team of the most dangerous killers from both species, found them in the ship's command center, still broadcasting their message to the galaxy. "End of the line," the team leader growled, raising his weapon. That's when the rescue ships arrived. The rescue ships that burst through the battle were unlike anything Sue had ever seen. Human vessels flew alongside Velthani crystal ships in perfect formation, working together like they'd been allies for years instead of enemies for decades. "This is Captain Park from the Unity," came a familiar voice over the radio. "Dr. Sue, Queen Nari, you can stand down. We've got this." The mixed fleet quickly surrounded the remaining extremist ships. Many of the conspirators surrendered immediately. When they realized their secret alliance had been exposed to the entire galaxy, others tried to fight, but they were vastly outnumbered by people from both species who had chosen cooperation over conflict. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the emergency frequency one last time. "This isn't over. Humans and aliens can never truly be friends." "Admiral," Captain Park replied calmly, "you're under arrest for treason and conspiracy to commit genocide. Your own officers are the ones who turned you in." 3 weeks later, Sue stood in the great crystal chamber on the Velthani homeworld. His left arm was still weak from the neural damage, but he'd regained most of his mobility. More importantly, he'd gained something he never expected, the respect of an entire civilization. Queen Nari towered above him in her ceremonial robes, but her voice was warm when she spoke. "Dr. Kim Sue, by your courage and sacrifice, you have saved not just my life, but the lives of millions across both our species. Therefore, I grant you something no human has ever received: full citizenship in the Velthani Empire." The massive chamber erupted in crystalline chimes as thousands of Velthani showed their approval. Sue felt tears in his eyes as he accepted the glowing crystal pendant that marked his new status. "But I have to go back," he said quietly. "My own. People need to see that cooperation is possible." "I know," Queen Nari replied. "That's why I'm sending Master Kyle with you. It's time our species started sharing medical knowledge instead of hoarding it." The journey back to human space took 2 weeks. When Sue's ship docked at Earth Station 1, he was amazed to find crowds of people waiting for him. Not angry crowds, but cheering ones. His story had spread throughout human space, and he'd become a symbol of what was possible when people chose hope over fear. The new human president, elected after Admiral Chen's arrest, was waiting at the key docking port. "Dr. Sue, on behalf of humanity, I apologize for how you were treated. Your actions prevented a war that would have destroyed both our civilizations." "I was just doing my job," Sue replied, but he was smiling. 6 months later, Sue opened the first joint human-Velthani medical center on Neutral Station 5. The techniques he'd learned from combining human medicine with Velthani energy healing were revolutionizing healthcare for both species. "Doctor, we have another patient," his assistant announced. "A Velthani child with a rare condition that their healers can't treat." "And let me guess," Sue said, pulling on his medical gloves, "the human doctors don't understand the energy-based symptoms." "Exactly." Sue smiled as he headed to the treatment room. "Then it's a good thing we don't have to choose sides anymore." As he worked to save another life, Sue thought about how strange his journey had been. One emergency call had changed everything, not just for him, but for 2 entire species. Sometimes the most important moments in history started with someone simply deciding to help. The child's parents waited nervously in the hallway, one human, one Velthani, a couple that would have been impossible just a year ago. Now they were just another family hoping their doctor could work a miracle. And thanks to what Sue had learned, miracles were becoming routine.